Why is it so hard to focus on my work? Well, an interesting explanation comes from Sophie Leroy, a business professor at the University of Minnesota. Leroy introduced an effort she called attention residue. In the introduction to this paper, she noted that other researchers have studied the effect of multitasking, which is trying to accomplish multiple tasks simultaneously. But that in the modern knowledge work office, once you get to a high enough level, it was more common to find people working on multiple projects sequentially, which is going from one meeting to the next, starting to work on one project, and soon after having to transition to another is just a part of life in everyday life. So the problem this research identifies with this work strategy is that when you switch from some task A to another task B, your attention doesn't immediately follow. A residue of your attention remains stuck thinking about the original task, whether you realize it or not. This residue gets especially thick if your work on task A was unbounded and has low intensity before you switched. But even if you finish task A before moving on, your attention remains divided for a while. Leroy studied the effect of this attention residue on performance by forcing task switches in the laboratory. In one such experiment, for example, she started her subjects working on a set of wood puzzles. In one of the trials, she would interrupt them and tell them that they needed to move on to a new and challenging task. In this case, reading resumes and making hypothetical hiring decisions. In other trials, she let the subject finish the puzzles before giving them the next task. In between puzzling and hiring, she would deploy a quick lexical decision game to quantify the amount of residue left from the first task. The results from this and her similar experiments were clear. People experiencing extension residue after switching tasks are likely to demonstrate poor performance on that next task. And the more intense the residue, the worse the performance. The concept of attention residue helps explain why the intensity formula is true and therefore helps explain Grant's productivity. By working on a single hard task for a long time without switching, we can minimize the negative impact of attention residue from our other obligations, allowing us to maximize performance on one task.